My question is, where were you, both the private actors and the public actors, when that vessel was being loaded with the satellite, with the intelligence that you talked about? That's the question. And what happened to the crew? Were they blown up too?
We don't have the powers to prosecute.
Okay. Captain, it's even more chilling for me to understand that there was crude oil in the vessel that was bombed with missiles yesterday, because that also aggravates the situation of the environment because of the effluence from that burning. It goes into the ecosystem and it destroys it. I mean, what's your take as regards that? That's number one.
Hello, my great and wonderful people. How on a day today? I hope all of on a day well. Today we get this video interview for our team. We want to say one quickly we make you watch concerning the things we want to say if they happen right now for inside this country, Nigeria. I believe say if they follow us since yesterday, you will be aware how EBC one vessel, which is one ship, when EBC that they thief our crude oil, most especially from the southeast region, and how EBC the security outfit, which is the private one, when this man, when in name na Tompolo set up, they arrest this ship. And yesterday they report to us how EBC that they bomb this same ship. And a lot of questions they come up when EBC Nigerians need answers to. Why EBC they will bomb that very ship? If at all say they bomb that ship and it get a lot of crude oil, when EBC they report to us say it dey for inside that ship when they don't already load to thief come up for this country, Nigeria. If una bomb that ship, now true say that crude oil still dey inside when EBC una bomb that ship, una bomb the crude oil, bomb the ship together. The people when EBC una equally showcase to us when it be the crew for inside that ship, waiting happen to them. And because of all these questions, when we say if they bother Nigerians, the executive director for this private company, they invite them for interview. And when I say interview, intensive interview for Arise News this morning to give Nigerians explanation to all these questions. When we say we just name few of them to you now. I beg, pay attention to this very video, although it will take a little time, so that you yourself will get comprehensive answer to all these questions when they say it still they bother you as it they bother us. And before then, I want quickly say a very big kudos to Arise News Media for their great work for this very interview, and also the opportunity when they say we get to get hold of this information to review to our people. All right, I'll leave you to listen to the full interview of this very man. We'll come back for more.
Litres Security Services Nigeria Limited, a security outfit owned by former militant leader Government Ekpemukpolo, also known as Tompolo, and contracted by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited. Meanwhile, the chairman of the Bayelsa State Traditional Rulers Council, His Royal Majesty Buba Praye Dakolo, in yesterday's interview on The Morning Show, said that President Bola Tinubu can end oil theft in 2 weeks. Joining us now on The Morning Show from Yenagua in Bayelsa State to discuss the continuous effort of the security services in curbing crude oil theft in Nigeria is the Executive Director of Operations and Technical at Litres Security, Captain Warred Enisuoh. Captain Enisuoh, thank you very much for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you, and good morning, Nigeria.
Well, Captain, you were on this program yesterday. The interview that Arise News had with you was shown, and your comments about the vessel, MT Deima, that was intercepted. But there was one major issue that we brought up in the conversation, which is Royal Majesty, the chairman of the Bayelsa Council of Traditional Rulers, which is, why destroy the evidence? Why did we have to destroy the vessel? Now, after the program, some people sent me messages saying, well, the vessel needed to be destroyed because in the past, some other vessels, which may not have been reported in the media, that were seized and that were kept to be used as evidence, because that constitutes the rest, as lawyers say, of the matter, they suddenly disappeared. So is it true that when you keep the evidence, the main material evidence that the court may be interested in this country, the evidence could disappear? So it's better to just destroy it and inflict some injury. Could you shed some light on that? And was the crude in that vessel, was it evacuated before it was bombed by the Navy? We just need those clarifications to start with.
Thank you very much. As far as disappearance of evidence goes, it's more of a culture in this part of the world. That is one major problem. Two, I want to tell you something that a lot of people don't know about ships. This ship was built in 1965. Now, you're keeping this evidence for a court case that is possibly going to last about 10 years. This oil may likely go into the water and create more problems, more ecological problems for the inhabitants around. Which one is worse? That is one thing. At the end of it, if the ship is found guilty, you now decide to evacuate the oil somewhere else because you call the ship as evidence. If it is evidence, there's even no need to evacuate the oil during the court process, so you keep everything in one location. Now, after the court process and you decide to evacuate the oil, you evacuate the oil with documents. Good. Now, this is one of our experiences. You're evacuating the oil with documents. Who is going to be there to monitor the evacuation? They could bring the same document back again and tell you they're evacuating the same oil. Well, actually, in the fact, is that they have gone somewhere else to go and taken or took more stolen oil and show you the same original papers for evacuating oil. So all through, you'll be evacuating oil from the empty Tura all along. So how long are we going to spend Nigeria's resources pursuing the same people all the time? You know that this particular ship has been evading capture for a long time. It came into the country with a different name, tried to change its name, didn't succeed, falsified its name, and started committing crimes against us for the last 10 years before it was caught. So how can you keep this kind of, what kind of evidence do we need again? We don't need any more evidence. And mind you, Nigeria is very, very light and very merciful on these type of crimes. If you go to places like Australia, where I did similar jobs before, or even as we speak, Peru, Indonesia, and all of these places, check it out on YouTube. It's explosion straight away to send a message even to China, Chinese fishing vessels that go into their territorial waters, or even Indonesian fishing vessels that come to Australian waters. Clean it up and blow it up. You can see all of that. But when Nigeria does theirs, people start shouting. We have to protect our natural resources for our children and the next citizens. So we're not bothered about one particular ship or something like that. After all, it's set ablaze. The whole oil becomes gas. It is less, and I repeat, less dangerous to the environment than keeping that oil as evidence till it leaks out into the waters and pollute, kill fish, and the inhabitants of the area will not be able to survive. Which do we prefer? We have to choose.
So clarification, there was no evacuation of the crude. Both the vessel and the content were just blown up like that. But I get your argument about evidence and all that, although it's a court of law that determines what constitutes evidence. But I get your point.
All right, Captain Enisuoh, a similar incident happened last year with regards to your outfit, Tantita Security, also discovering an illegal vessel, setting it on fire, which also caused uproar as to the legalities, issues around evidence, and this was even raised by a letter by Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, and he had even called for the sack of the of Captain Mr. Irabo following that. The same explanation was given, and now that you have said that you were abiding by rules of engagement said last year as well, may I ask, just so that as a follow-up to what has happened this year, what happened afterwards? Were there any leads from last year's vessel capture, burning of that vessel? What was the outcome of that? Because then it would give an argument, or it would establish your argument of saying that it is in the best interest to set these vessels on fire without preserving that evidence, in this case, as some lawyers and some people have argued for. What has happened from last year, and what's the way forward from this year?
If you look at the statistics of this type of criminality, it has reduced. If you also go back to last year at Nigeria's oil production, you will see the massive increase in the production of oil. What does that tell you? A lot of people are desisting, they are scared, they don't want to lose their assets here and there. They know that justice is now swift, more or less, so we're not going to invest in that type of business. Mind you, this business is not only local, it's got an international dimension as well, as I keep saying. If you check the Niger Delta now, because these ships are not coming as much as they come, the amount of illegal refineries that pollute the environment is beginning to die down and is also beginning to reduce. People may think this is just a Niger Delta problem. No, this is not just a Niger Delta problem. These people are sometimes paying people in the Niger Delta region to even refine, locally refine this crude oil to form diesel. And I tell you this, sometimes they take this diesel, illegal refined diesel, to Lagos and mix it with the foreign diesel that is coming from outside, increase the volume and sell it to you all and blow your generators up. So it is not just about the Niger Delta, it's about the whole of Nigeria being contaminated by this particular illegality. So by blowing up these vessels, and I know we used to count them back then, but now we could not count them back then, but now we can count them. Okay, so it's beginning to frighten people. And this is the...
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So
can
the
you
question,
hear me?
I hear you in terms of as a deterrent. The question centers more on prosecution.
Yes.
Finding the people behind this. Are you not interested in that? Because beyond the vessel, burning the vessel and saying it acts as a deterrent, what I was asking in effect was, from last year's burning, was there any lead? Were there any arrests? Were there any investigations done following that? Post the burning of the vessel is the question I'm asking.
Okay, that is a question the state would have to answer, because we are not prosecutors. We are people paid to prevent and help the Nigeria's economy in that particular sector. We have done our job, so it is left for the state to prosecute and pursue the owners and the people who sponsor these missions. We don't have that power to go international. As I said, we are a local company. We're here to protect our interests. So, but it's the responsibility of the states to pursue prosecution. We don't have the powers to prosecute.
Okay. Captain, it's even more chilling for me to understand that there was crude oil in the vessel that was bombed with missiles yesterday, because that also aggravates the situation of the environment because of the effluence from that burning. It goes into the ecosystem and it destroys it. I mean, what's your take as regards that? That's number one. Number two will be, yes, you've been able to apprehend some people and hand them over to the authorities, but it doesn't solve the cycle of the problem, because the 11 seamen or 15 seamen that were apprehended are not the people that could afford such a big tanker. They are the main people in Nigeria that His Royal Majesty that Kolo was talking about yesterday. They are the movers and the shakers of this country. So no matter how much you try, then definitely it wouldn't still hit the main target. The question is, how can we hit that main target? How can we bust the cartel? How can we stop the international transfer of money? How can we, trail their transactions, put embargo on their account? I mean, I think those are wider conversations. But the first question is the damage that has been done to the environment by burning that crude, which will definitely destroy the hitherto destroyed ecosystem of the Niger Delta.
Okay, thank you very much, Afai. I'll give you a classic case. If you do have the time and the resources, you could go to the environment. It is much easier to burn crude inside a ship than burn crude outside the ship. The crude oil is still contained within the vessel and is still burning. It's like you pouring fuel inside a metal plate and setting fire on the fuel. It won't spill out. It's only going to evaporate. After all, crude oil is just gas in solid form. So it's easier to incinerate it in a contained manner. And as at this particular point in time, I can guarantee you, from my knowledge of being a ship captain and everything, that crude that is still burning till today is evaporating into the atmosphere. So you go into the area, the water is very, very clean. I can bet you on that. I can take you there myself for you to see. So it is not as people see it, because a lot of people are a bit worried because of the graphics and everything. But we know what we're doing. The ship is not holed at the moment. So since it is not holed, there's no hole in the system for the crew to come out. Nothing like that is happening. And we just don't leave it there. As a responsible organization to society, we keep our men there to keep monitoring the situation. So in case anything of such happens, we boom the area and contain it. So we've got that particular strategic plan in place, and it's being done as we speak to ensure that everything just goes up in flames and in gaseous manner, which is more friendly to the environment than allowing it to spill. That is one.
But it's still going to affect the environment.
When it comes to the crew, yes, I did.
But it's still going to affect the
Say
environment.
Again?
But it's still going to affect the environment. Even if it's evaporating, it's still going to affect the environment.
Yes, but not in the same manner if it spills, because when crude oil goes into the water, it becomes sludge. You need to see the environment where we apprehended this vessel. They didn't even care. The hoses which they used to connect to the jacket was spilling thick crude over the water. And the NNPC was very responsible enough to ensure that immediately it is cocked. So these people don't care. If you sail around the Niger Delta now, you will see that the water is very clean. Fish is returning. If you go to Port Harcourt, you will see that there's no black soot anymore because of these actions that we have taken. People are now scared to go into this particular business. So we should look at the dividends. The country's oil production is going up. We're making more money. So these are the dividends. It's a double-edged sword. You can't get it all. But we have to find a permanent solution. I agree, finding the owners. And the government is also doing something to find the owners. If you look at yesterday's Nation, somebody did come out that he was a board member in the company, that is not a member of the company anymore. And I believe he came out with that disclaimer as a result of the fact that maybe, I don't know, I can't confirm that, they are in search of the owners of the company, which is why he came out to give that particular disclaimer. So we should give the country credit for that.
Well, Captain,
so we're going somewhere.
Captain, a number of additional clarifications.
Yes.
One, you said the crude was, destroyed along with the vessel because the crude will now evaporate in a gaseous state and all that. How about the crew in that ship? Were they also destroyed along with the vessel and with the crude? What has happened to them? About the issue of litigation, yes, when MT Heroic Idon was intercepted on the coast of Equatorial Guinea last year, we were told that, the persons were arraigned. What is the status of that, legal case? That should be the basic concern about the arraignment. But these ones, what happened to them? Were they also blown up with the vessel? And then why is the Nigerian Navy so inefficient in stopping these vessels that come to steal our crude? Because you just said that this particular vessel has been stealing crude for a long time, just changing names, coming and going. And now we have this dramatic case that all of you are hyping as a major achievement for something that has been going on for years. That is the question. And why do you think crude oil theft is so easy in Nigeria? You are a private, contractor trying to check this. Why is it that you people cannot act before we find this kind of situation? And then we see this media hype, we have intercepted, we have destroyed vessel and all that. Many people are not convinced that this shows progress.
Thank you very much, Ruben. I'll take the first question, which is the fact that why didn't we do something before now? If you remember vividly, it was only last year we came on board. And from last year to now, you've been seeing a lot of these things, which tells you that this problem is probably above just state participation. Now listen to this. It is not easy to catch a ship that has deliberately decided that they will go stealth, which means you can't detect them. Only very few countries in the world have got the capacity, both human, to be able to detect ships that deliberately decide to deceive the world. And fortunately, Nigeria is one of the countries with that capacity. However, That capacity may lie in the hands of both the private sector and the government sector, which is the reason why we have to partner. Everybody will bring their knowledge together. So last year was when our different knowledges from both the military and the private sector was cemented together by the goodwill of the government and the NNPC. Say, look, you know what, we have to harness everybody that has got knowledge in bringing these type of crimes to book. So that is why you are seeing the recent hype up, and it has not happened before. I mean, one person doesn't have it all. We have to partner. We have to bring ourselves together, including yourselves in the studio. We're showing the world that, look, if you come to Nigeria to come and play games with us, this is what you are going to see. We've got calls from Canada. People are shivering. People who do illegal businesses, who give Nigerian ships to come and steal oil and take back to them, are now scared to send their ships to this place. So you see, we all have a job. Even the National Orientation Agency has a job to do. Orient the citizens to become more nationalistic so that they can tell us when people are about to sabotage us. Now, with this particular ship and even the previous one, if you had followed this thing very, very well, we use both electronic intelligence, satellites that send radar signals onto the Earth's surface and bounces back. Not many people can read such signals. I did remote sensing, which is part of the reasons why I am able to sniff out some of these dogs in the ocean. And here in Tantita, we've got different sets of people. I mean, we've got pilots, we've got sailors, we've got even people afloat. But mind you, we've not been able to assist that much the way we would have in the ocean, because when it comes to the ocean, we are not responsible for the ocean in full. We can only provide the intelligence we have. And in a government setting, it's very, very difficult to fund intelligence. In the private sector, we have no bureaucracy. That is why we have become very, very effective in recent times. So we will encourage the government to continue to partner with the private sector on this.
No, but Captain Enisuoh, my question is, where were you, both the private actors and the public actors, when that vessel was being loaded with the satellite, with the intelligence that you talked about? That's the question. And what happened to the crew? Were they blown up too? Destroyed as evidence?
Thank you very much. The crew is not blown up. The crew is under custody. That's what I said initially. Now, come to the question of where I was. I'll tell you something that happened a few weeks before we apprehended that ship. We saw another one within a jacket, and we felt, oh, you know what? Let us go and prevent that ship from loading. And we went out. We boarded that ship. They had not connected. We checked all the holes. Nothing was inside. And lo and behold, what did they say? We didn't commit any crime, which is true. We're looking for evidence, isn't it? You go out there to sea, you go and catch a ship that has not taken anything, and you come out here and say you've arrested somebody. Under the United Nations law of the sea, there's a law of innocent passage, so you just can't grab a ship that has not carried anything wrong. It's not possible. So we had to wait for this one to carry the crude, because without the crude, there's no evidence. So that's why we had to wait. It went there at about 9 p.m. in the night. We were watching, and then we knew if it doesn't change its position from that 9 p.m., we know the times they go and commit these crimes, from 9 p.m. to 4:30 in the morning. So by around 4, it was still there. So we know that it has sucked some, and that's how we stormed the place.
Well, thank you very much, Captain Enisuoh, Director of Operations and Technical at Tantina Security.
All right, my great and wonderful people, I believe say you don't get some kind of answers to some questions when you say still they bother you, even as this man explained few of them. And from our own point, we don't get anything to argue with them. Only one thing when you say we they beg them, just as that they receive their own pay concerning what they call them to do to secure this very oil for the Niger Delta. Make them make sure say they do with a good result. Now, waiting with the beg then and be that very one. All right, we'll leave you to share your opinion with us in the comment section, even as we draw the line of this very broadcast. Yeah, and before we say final goodbye, I want quickly use this medium to appreciate you for your time when you stay with us up to this very moment. God Almighty will bless you, and equally, not forget to share, like, and also leave your comment for us for the comment section. We will see you again when we see you. Remember, we love you all. Bye-bye.